and if we could all please rise, the Honorable Councilmember Jim Jolly will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Jolly. Good evening, and welcome to the 1,926th regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. This is a voting meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting scheduled to be held on Monday, August 23rd, 2021. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Jolly.
Present.
Councilmember Toy.
Here.
Vice President Barr.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember McCullough.
Here.
Councilmember Donovic.
Here.
President McIntyre.
Here, and we have all members of the council with us this evening. At this time, we have the presentation of the minutes from the 1,925th regular meeting of the City Council that was held on July 26, 2021. Council?
So moved. Support.
Moved by Councilmember White, supported by Councilmember Toy. Any corrections to the minutes? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on approval of the minutes from the 1,925th meeting?
Councilmember Jolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Vice President Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the minutes are approved without any changes. This time, I go to the council. If anyone has any announcements, tributes, or recognitions they'd like to offer. Councilmember Toy, did you?
I thought I did, but I'm looking. That's okay, go
Madam
ahead.
President,
Yes, please.
this is probably as good a time as any if there's no other announcements. I'd like to refer a matter to committee of the whole. And we've talked about this before, just the lack of procedures that we have relative to how we set agendas for council meetings. So I'd like to refer to the committee of the whole, the subject to rules and procedures for creating city council meeting agendas, including but not limited to regular study meetings.
We have support?
Support.
Support from Councilmember Toy. Any discussion? Anyone from the audience like to comment on this resolution offered by Vice President Barr? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on referring this matter to committee of the whole?
Councilmember Jolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Vice President Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the motion carries, so we will refer that matter to committee of the whole and work to schedule a committee of the whole meeting.
Madam President.
Yes, Vice
One other
President
thing,
Barr.
I don't normally extend birthday wishes this far, but I have a nephew from out of town who's in town tonight. And because he's in Livonia celebrating as we speak right now with the rest of my family, I just wanted to take this opportunity to look at Jeremiah on TV and say, happy birthday, Jeremiah. He's now officially been a part of the Livonia City Council meeting.
Excellent. We're just disappointed that Jeremiah didn't want to spend his birthday celebrating with us. What better way for a young person to do it upright? Happy birthday to your nephew, Vice President Barr. Before we go to a special presentation by the Livonia Community Foundation, I have just a few announcements to make. The first is to congratulate the St. Andrews Society of Detroit on a spectacularly successful Highland Games over the weekend. This was, I believe, the 172nd Highland Games sponsored by the St. Andrews Society of Detroit, which I understand these are the longest running Highland Games in the country or North America. It was just a fantastic event. Kathy Haas was the chairwoman and just did a beautiful job. It was a great event, and a special thank you to our police department, including our reserves and our CERT volunteers. And I believe that one of the reasons Livonia is home to so many great events, certainly the beautiful venue of Greenmead is important, but also it's our police department, our reserve officers, and our CERT volunteers. So thank you to everyone. I also learned today, sadly, that June Kendall, a longtime friend of many organizations in Livonia, including the Symphony and many, I know she was involved before I knew her in many things in the city, passed away rather unexpectedly at the end of July. So our condolences to June's family, and just a prayer of gratitude and thanks for everything she did for our community. And with that, it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce the Livonia Community Foundation, who has a presentation to make this evening. And I guess we will have Mr. Brian Meakin, the Executive Director of the foundation, and Mr. John Hiltz, the Chairman of the Board, or Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Community Foundation.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. It's indeed an honor to be back in your humble chambers, and I'm greatly honored to be here. As the President said, I'm Brian Meakin. I am the Executive Director of the Livonia Community Foundation, and we're here to present the city with a check for $10,000 to our first responders. Our President Hiltz will go into further detail about that, but I wanted to give a moment about what the Livonia Community Foundation is. We are a permanent endowment that helps other nonprofits throughout the city of Livonia. We were originally founded by former Mayor Bob Bennett in 1993. So we've been around for a number of years. I had the distinguished privilege of being the president from 2008 to 2019, I believe. We are currently sitting with assets of over $2.5 million. So we're greatly proud of the money that we have raised in this community. This past year, we were able to give away $45,000 to many charities throughout Livonia. And we're always looking to improve on that. We would like more charities to go to our website and find out about our grant application process, and we'll be happy to consider you for next year's grants. So that's enough about the foundation. I'd like to introduce John Hiltz, the president of the Livonia Community Foundation.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you all very much for the opportunity. It is through the great support and generosity of our citizens that we've been successful. We actually, through these difficult times, created a special fund called our COVID Relief Fund, and it was designed really to help our first responders. And we've been able to make contributions, again, from the support of our residents. But in particular, this larger contribution that we're here making tonight comes as a result of a contribution made to us via the Hardee's Family Trust. And it was through that generosity that we're able to support our first responders and pass that support along to our police department and our fire departments over, and trying to keep them safe as they're responsible for keeping us all safe.
Gentlemen, thank you. Council, thank you. On behalf of the Livonia Fire Department and the Livonia Police Department, we'd like to accept the very generous donation of $10,000 from the Livonia Community Foundation. And a special thank you to Mr. Meakin and Mr. Hiltz for being here today to present that to us. As everybody knows, last year we went through, for the last 16, 18 months now, we've gone through a very tremendous time through COVID, through the whole response through the pandemic. And we have had to make many different purchases over that time period to help keep our stations and our people sanitized and safe. And one of the things that this money was used to purchase was a collective grouping of electrostatic sprayers, which allows us to spray our equipment, pretty much anything that is fabric-driven to metal, plastics, whatever it is. It looks like a big toy gun, so I can't let the police department get too close to it. But, so this is an example of what we've purchased, and what it does is it electrostatically charges the chemicals that we use and spray on our equipment, and it encapsulates the entire surface electronically and brings the solution all the way around our surfaces. So it allows us to very thoroughly clean and sterilize our equipment, our belongings, things in the station. We also put these in the housing department as well, so they could help spray handrails, elevator buttons, anything that doesn't normally get wiped down and sanitized thoroughly every day can be sprayed by a unit like this. And we spray it, leave it, and it kills viruses, bacteria, mold, etc. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for the contribution. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it was more than just one of those, correct?
Correct, yes. So we, sorry, I did leave that part out. We have put them in every firehouse, the police department, housing department, both in headquarters and the individual stations. So they are spread out throughout the city, yes.
Thank you.
Just have one comment with that. I echo what the chief said.
But with this equipment, it also allows us and our officers and the people that work at our various departments to stay healthy so that we can better serve the citizens and we're not out sick and short of manpower when this whole pandemic took place. So that's really much appreciated. It allows us to clean our equipment quickly and efficiently to serve the city. So with that, appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain Yan. Thank you, Chief Hebner, and
Thank you.
Once again, we want to thank you, and actually wanted to apologize I didn't acknowledge earlier, but we have two of our esteemed volunteers that also sit before you today, and Susan Nash and Kathleen McIntyre, and so we continue to appreciate your continued efforts and support. Thank you so much.
thank you to the foundation on behalf of the city, and thank you, Brian and John, for your leadership of the foundation, everything that you do, and facilitate giving back to the community, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
All right, at this time, I'm going to go to Council Member Toy, who's going to share with us our list of retirees.
Oh, yes. We have just a few retirees. Matthew Meyer, he is the battalion chief for 27 years. Congratulations to him. And James Warman, senior police officer of 25 years as well. And Madam Chair, we do have a couple of birthdays in our midst. I don't know, Councilman McCullough, I hear, is turning a ripe old age of, well, Jack Benny was 39, but he's gonna pass that in a few short weeks. And also Gary Garrison, who's been a longtime city employee of 40-some years. He's thinking he holds a record here, I'm not real sure. I think that maybe Kathy White will surpass him. But he's turning a magic age too. So I wanted to also share that with the council and the rest of Livonia so that they could see where they're registered and buy them cake. Yeah.
Did we miss Councilmember McCullough's birthday?
Almost,
I got a few more weeks, so you got another council meeting.
yeah.
You can heckle me for another meeting.
Oh, you want us to get you again? Is that what you're saying?
That's fair.
Okay.
I mean, turning 25 is a big deal.
Big deal. All right, thank you, Councilmember Toy. Does anyone have anything else before I go to introduction of the department heads and audience communication? All right, at this time, it's my privilege to introduce the department heads who are with us this evening. Beginning on my left, Mr. Todd Zielinski, our city engineer, sitting in for our Director of Economic Development and Planning, Mr. Mark Taramina, who's not able to be with us this morning. We have, this evening, we have Scott Miller, one of the deputies from the department. We have Sarah Kasperich, the manager of the council office and all of the council business. Continuing on my right, we have Susan Nash, our city clerk. We have LaShawn Thomas, our director of governmental affairs. Mr. Paul Bernier, our lead city attorney. You already heard from Captain Yan from our police department, Chief Dave Hebner, Don Roroff from the director of Department of Public Works, Mr. Ted Davis, our director of Parks and Recreation and Community Resources. And I think that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, and right almost in front of me, Brandy Isaacson, our Director of Housing. And I just liked, and I should have said this at the time, Brandy, thank you for the wonderful picnic for the Silver Village residents. Was that 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago? Time flies. But that was really nice, and they certainly seemed to enjoy being able to be together outside and enjoy hamburgers and hot dogs. We had help from the fire department, our housing commissioners, and the housing staff. So thank you, and if you would thank the team at Silver Village for their work in putting that together too. It was a lovely event. I know we have another one coming up at Newburgh Village, so thank you. This time we go to audience communication. And just to remind everyone, this is an opportunity for anyone to address the council on any item that is not on this evening's agenda. You have 3 minutes to share your comments, and you are asked to keep your comments professional. We do not tolerate any personal attacks or inappropriate language. So if anyone would like to communicate with the council on any item not in this evening's agenda, we invite you to do so, and we ask you if you would please give us your name and address so we know who is speaking to us.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Reno Cassar. I'm a 35-year resident of Livonia. I live at 36505 Roycroft. My property backs right up into the Mendelson Kornblum building there. I've addressed council a couple times before. It was on a Zoom call. If I can just bring you kind of up to speed, we had an agreement between Bahajar, Dan Bahajar, your inspector, and Dan Cresco, the CEO of Mendelsohn Kornblum, where they extended this trailer wall. I was getting a high-frequency noise in my bedroom. I don't know if you
Yep.
guys remember that. I was sleeping with earplugs, and he fixed that. So they agreed to extend the trailer well 10 feet, and they were supposed to reroute the stainless steel vent where I was getting a howling noise around to the east side of the building, which they couldn't do because of condensation, and he just turned it down, and it was tolerable.
Mr. Cassar, could you reroute the vent, is it the venting, did you say?
Yeah. It's, it has something to do with cleaning surgical equipment,
Okay,
a boiler vent.
okay.
So they couldn't do that because of condensation, and he turned it down, and it was tolerable. But now that MRI machine goes 24/7. So it was okay for 4 months. We had a couple of times where I think back in April, the vent was turned on full blast again, where I called Dan Bahajar and Dan Cresco, and it got turned down, and we were okay. Then about June, I started getting a rumbling noise in my bedroom. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I don't fly off the handle every time I hear a noise. I want you guys to understand that. I'm looking to see if it's an anomaly, if it's just gonna happen once or twice. Then I start looking to see if it's a pattern. What time of day it comes on, what time of night it shuts off, stuff like this. So, I think it was back in, I talked to Dan Bahajar. He said he was gonna take a decibel reading. And then in June, it got really bad one Saturday, where I took a video of it. It was June 26th. It was like 8 o'clock in the evening. It had been going all day, and I'm looking in the park, I'm viewing the park, there's nobody in the parking lot. Now, why it would be that loud, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. So I called Dan Bahajar again, told him, I sent him a message, this is, kind of ridiculous. And Dan Cresco, the same thing. So things get taken care of, you know what I mean? Everybody's trying. And then, besides the rumbling noise, so about like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I start getting this oscillating noise. If you ever hear a jetliner starting to come over your house, an airliner, you get that kind of noise, and then it gets louder as it's coming over. Well, it's the beginning sound of that. It runs for 15 seconds, shuts down for 30 to 45 seconds, and then comes on again, and it repeats itself for quite a long time. I've been trying to find out if I could get a certain pattern of it. This last Wednesday or Tuesday, I went back out there to try to make sure I know what business it's coming from. In the Mendelsohn Kornblum building, I think there's St. Joe Mercy that's in there, and I believe there's another business in there. So I can't tell you who it's coming from, because I talked to Dan Bahajar. He said, maybe, okay, call Dan Cresco.
Mr. Cassar,
Yes, ma'am.
that's your 3 minutes.
Sorry.
No, no need to apologize. I think if I could summarize, that the problems had been resolved, and now they are back to being unresolved, if you will, and you're not able to sleep.
You could
or-
give me just 1 minute.
We.
I just want a
Excuse me,
permanent-
1 minute.
Okay,
What we
sorry.
need to do is we need to ask the council.
Madam
if-
President,
Yes,
I'd move to give him another minute.
I'll support.
okay. Are there any objections? All right, so the council has, and we have to do this officially.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank
so
you very
have-
much. I appreciate
You have
it.
1 additional minute.
Okay, I just think it's time for like a permanent solution, like a sound barrier or something. I'm starting to feel like I'm the nuisance. I come up to go see Dan Bahajar, and it's like, oh, Jesus, you know what I mean? But I'm not flying off the handle, like I said, coming every time, It's 35 years been there. We've had all kinds of businesses back there, And something's got to be done. It's just way close to my property line, so I'm thinking maybe what we need is a sound barrier on the back of my property, so I don't have to go through this all the time. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that extra minute.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to update us. Ms. LaShawn Thomas is here. She's the Director of Governmental Affairs. She also serves at these meetings as the liaison back to the administration and the mayor's office. And this will be getting referred back to the administration, and we will be working through the mayor's office to understand what's being done to address this and look for a permanent solution.
Will you contact me?
We will ask, the mayor's office will follow up with you, and maybe if you would call the council, you call the council office tomorrow. I'm sure we have your contact information, but if you call 466-2250 tomorrow and talk to Ms. Kasperowitz, she'll make sure that we have all your contact information and make sure that gets to the mayor's office.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll look for a permanent solution to this. All right, at this time, we go to any reports from the mayor and other city officials. Don, Mr. Woroff, did you want to update the council at this time on the refuse pickup situation? Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Don Roraf, DPW Director. As you know, we have been experiencing delays with our garbage collection, recycling, and yard waste. I just wanted to kind of give council an update of what we've been doing, and so I think a letter was sent out to you as well as the residents and some of the stuff, so I will be kind of doubling up on that. But just historically, I wanted to make note that, you know, we've always had excellent service with GFL. I have been reaching out and talking to other communities in the area. This is not a city of Livonia problem. This is Southeast Michigan problem. They're all suffering the same exact delays that we are with pickups, and it's not concentrated, you know, in this area, that area. It's everywhere. So we started looking into, you know, what could be some of the problems. Obviously, we've had an extremely wet summer, lots of flooding, lots of rain, which is causing large increases in our yard waste, grass clippings. Normally this time of the year, we're down to very little collection when it comes to composting. So just kind of giving a little background on that part of it. We've sat down with GFL and Sam, who's here tonight, and I'll be bringing him up to answer any questions and explain some of the stuff that, you know, that he's dealing with, that we're all dealing with labor force and getting employees out there to, you know, get some of this work taken care of. But we've been in regular communications with them over the last few months. We did have a meeting with GFL. We discussed some of the challenges that they're dealing with, and as I mentioned, you know, we're dealing with those at DPW, we're dealing with that at Parks and Rec. And again, I'll let Sam talk about some of those issues that have happened. But so what have we done up to this point when we've sat down and we had this meeting with them? We've set up a new process where we're getting a map daily from GFL of all the areas that have been missed, if they've been missed. That allows our staff to be aware of the areas of concern, what's been missed, and we can better answer the questions from the residents or anyone else that's calling in. We've worked with GFL to allow them to temporarily dump yard waste at our Glendale ramp that we use for our leaf collection program versus taking it to the landfill. This is reducing their travel time greatly, and we can get back out there and increase the collection time as needed. And whenever they need to dump there, that I think right now it's 2 to 3 days a week that they're using that ramp. Some of the things that we talked about is when there was missed pickups in certain areas, that sometimes it would take a day or two for them to get back out there and collect those areas that were missed. We worked through this and we've adjusted that to now any areas that were missed in a pickup on the previous day, they're being picked up immediately the following morning so that there's not a delay before they start any of the other new routes that day. So those are some of the things that we've sat down, we've talked to them about. I'm going to have Sam come up here and let him talk about some of the challenge that they're dealing with individually, some of the programs that we've talked about that he's started to recruit some of the workforce, and then I'll be available for any questions if you have any following that. Thank you.
Mr. Roroff, before you leave, I don't know if anyone else has a question for you. Vice President Barr?
Yeah, Mr. Roroff, you said that we're having them dump some of it at our site, which I applaud you and the administration for coming up with that as at least an interim solution to kind of help this. But then what are we doing with that extra waste? That's obviously stuff we hadn't planned on.
Yeah, it's still the yard waste from Livonia. So what we're doing as a department is we're just supplying them an area to drop that, which is that ramp. GFL's coming in with their loader, their trailers and semis, they're loading that up, and they're just taking it out in 100-yard trailers opposed to every Packer truck, right? So, I'll let Sam bring out the details of that, but it's saving, half hour to 45 minutes, if I recall, on every truck that has to go dump every time opposed to, running to the landfill to do that. So
Got it.
we're not putting any labor into that. We're just providing that space and that ramp to make it a little easier for them to get over there quicker and reduce some of the travel time.
Makes sense. You said that you're tracking, on a daily basis what gets missed. Do you have an idea what percentage of the city is everybody seeing at least one portion of the refuse not get picked up in a given day, or is it a certain percentage of the city?
Yeah, from a percentage, obviously that varies. It's getting better and better and better. The calls are reducing, weekly. What we talked about was, obviously, we need to get the garbage and the trash off the streets. That's especially in this weather. It's been extremely hot. That doesn't need to be out there. That doesn't need to stay overnight. That doesn't need to stay, multiple days. So, kind of a pecking order, if you might. Garbage, recycling, then yard waste.
Which is, I know just on my street, it's probably been, like a lot of people, I bet it's been 2 months since we've had all three of those picked up on the same day. Is the whole city experiencing that on a given week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't single you out or
No,
anything like that.
I know that based on the calls I'm getting, but I was just, I wasn't sure if it was a 100% problem, if it was just certain
Yeah,
sections of the city that.
and again, I think Sam is probably, better equipped to answer that question if there's certain routes that are more difficult due to spacing or certain times of the day or whatever that might be, but
Okay.
yeah,
and
there hasn't been anywhere in the last few months that has been 100% picked up, and they have not had any issues. It's citywide.
And then the last question I have for you, and I know Sam's coming up, but just these are things I think are appropriate to ask you. I'm certainly empathetic to the struggles that GFL is going through with finding workers, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about that. But just for a moment, setting the empathy aside, and we do have a contract with them. Are there contractual stipulations for this type of situation where we, on a consistent basis, are not seeing the service performed? Is there any kind of compensation to the city for that in the contract, or no?
Yeah, there's different stipulations, and again, that varies depending on what it is that, we're talking about. Are we talking about leaf collection? Are we talking about yard waste? Are we talking about garbage? But there are areas in that contract that do, credit back to the city if we have, extreme delays or things like that aren't caused by, Mother Nature, flooding, torrential downpours. Those clauses are in the contract, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Roroff, I know we've mentioned this before, and this is something that our former colleague Brandon Kritzman was a champion of finding a way, and I know this goes really more to the mayor's office and to the IT department, but a mobile app where people can let us know about problems. So right now, when people call in, they call the DPW office directly. Is that how we're finding out? Like, when you hear from residents, how are those calls coming in? How are you getting the information? Are they through the mayor's office, or are they coming directly to the DPW office?
There's actually a handful of ways that happens. We do have the mobile app out there that comes in to us.
Okay,
The majority of the phone calls for sanitation currently go to the inspection department. We
okay.
do receive calls at DPW. They do receive calls at the mayor's office, community resources. We also have an online through the web. You can fill out a form if something was missed, that gets submitted in. So there is a handful of different ways that is all happening.
And then are we pulling that data together in a quantitative way?
We actually had a meeting about that today to try to get it zeroed into just one point of contact.
But are
and
we,
one-
right now, so when we get the data, are we keeping track of the
Yes.
addresses and the volumes, so we can
Yes.
look at that data
Yes,
and look for patterns?
yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here
Oh,
tonight.
you're
I
welcome.
know that there are a lot of residents that will be very happy, and that's the reason that we asked, that council requested this, is so our residents could, and I think when we talk to people, we certainly explain that the city is on top of it and that GFL is doing everything, but it's always helpful, I think, to have you here to address the residents directly. So thank you very
Sure,
much
yeah.
for being here.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Don before Sam comes up? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Council. Sam Carabagno with GFL Environmental. Everything that Don said is, kind of represents what's going on for us right now. As we're probably all aware, there is quite a staffing situation in and around Metro Detroit, whether it's restaurant, retail, any type of trucking, manufacturing. There is a labor problem that we're dealing with right now. We have taken plenty and a lot of measures to try and staff our drivers and loaders and technicians, for that matter, to satisfy this contract and any other contract we've got in Metro Detroit. We have raised our driver wages up to a starting rate of $23 per hour, and the rate for the loaders on the back of the truck is $17 per hour. It's had some effect, not enough. We've added a retention bonus in the way of attendance bonus for our employees, up to $350 per month. We've added a referral bonus. In other words, if one of our employees knows someone else looking for work, that's $1,000. And we've got a hiring bonus of $1,000 as well right now for anybody that comes in and stays with us. It's been a challenge. I've never seen anything quite like this. I apologize for the delays that our residents are seeing, all of us are seeing. It's hard to see this type of service after all these years. To answer a question or two of yours that was asked, yes, there is tracking of complaints, and typically in Livonia, historically, we've seen about 4 to 4.5 complaints per 1,000 customers was the number, which is virtually nothing when you're thinking about trash, yard waste, recycling service, very, very small. Obviously, that number's up right now as the delays are ongoing. I think it's important for any residents that are watching or listening to understand that if you are missed, please leave your material at the curb. We will come back and pick it up. If you take it back to behind your house or back into your garage and then bring it out the next day, that creates a whole other set of problems. If you leave it there, we will come by and get it collected. We are utilizing the Livonia Leaf Hill for yard waste right now, primarily on Mondays and Tuesdays. We dump the yard waste there and then transfer it out. It does save some disposal trip time where those trucks are better served in the collection area, picking up yard waste rather than driving long distances for yard waste disposal. We had an effective meeting, I think, with the mayor's office, Don and others, about a week and a half ago. There was a question about, are you advertising on your trucks for drivers and helpers? And yes, we are. We've got signs on those trucks. Whether people are reading them or not, I don't know, but we are advertising. We're also advertising on Indeed for employees, and we're getting candidates. Getting them to stick is a different situation, but we've enhanced also our HR folks at the hauling location. We're staffed a couple people there just to interview, process, drug test, physical, to schedule all those things to get people to come work for us. I'll gladly take any questions you have.
Vice President Barr and then Councilmember McCullough.
Sam, thanks for that, and thanks for just being a stand-up guy and coming here and answering these questions. Encouraged to hear that you're seeing some traction, it sounds like, with some of the moves that you've made. I'm sure you don't want to, I'm not going to ask you to commit to anything tonight. I doubt you could. But do you see a light at the end of the tunnel with this? I mean, are you seeing things turning that conceivably within the next, say, month or so that we might see things back to normal, or is that just too hard to say still?
No, I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. We've got a dozen employees right now in process of coming on. They're on onboarding right now. So we've got a dozen. We hope to keep most of them. Some are experienced, come from other industries or recalls from the past, but I do see light at the end of the tunnel. We had a better week last week, and we've had some bad weeks in the last month, but we had a better week last week. We had a real clean Monday, Tuesday, lost a little ground on Wednesday, and once you lose ground, it's tough to catch up. But what we do is, we don't have the ability to shut down or close up on a Monday or Tuesday if you're in a different type of business. All we have is to extend the collection from 5 days to 6 days, and apparently some days we've been into the 7th day, which I hate to do. But we have to do what we have to do. We have to get it caught up by the week's end, because you start Monday fresh on Monday. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We will not stop. I'm not going to stop hiring, processing, until we get this thing right. There is no doubt about it.
All right, thanks. Appreciate you being here tonight.
You're welcome.
Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. Through the chair to Sam. Sam, percentage-wise, I mean, when the pandemic hit, do you have a percentage of where your staffing levels dropped to at the lowest?
You know, it's a seasonal business. This is the busy time of the year. As Don mentioned, with all this rain we've had, yard waste has been never-ending this year. But we lay off in the wintertime, and then in the spring we bring them back. And this problem didn't start until just after Memorial Day, is when this problem really came into high gear. And we've been fighting it ever since. Staffing levels, we've got, in Metro Detroit, we've got over 1,000 trucks. We've got thousands of people. At the location that serves you, we're probably short 20 employees right now from being where we need to be to get everything satisfied. I don't know if that answers your question or
And
not.
then basically, with the 20 being currently, at the worst, where were you at? Were you down?
Oh, we were down 45 at one time.
Okay. And
Yes.
so you're seeing a progression, to kind of touch base on Vice President Barr. You're seeing a little bit of glimmer analytically every week, especially with your onboarding. Like me personally, I noticed that, we had some issues, and last week, knock on wood, was a good week. I think everything was picked up. So I see a little progress, and again, I think that you trending like that, if you're down 20, and well, then hopefully we cross our fingers. I know I know you're very stressed out doing probably on the phone nonstop, so we appreciate that help. And
Yeah, we've made some progress. Thank you for recognizing that. I will tell you that today, all of the trash in Monday's collection area was collected. All of the recycle was collected in Monday's area. Yard waste, about 50% of it got, 50 got collected. We'll be on that first thing tomorrow morning, getting the rest of it.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toy.
Thank you. If I may, to Mr. Carmago as well. I want to thank President McIntyre for inviting all of you in. It's very frustrating. This is Government 101. Garbage is, any political science book you read will tell you that the first and foremost of any resident's concern is their garbage pickup. And Sam, I appreciate you being here tonight, but I do applaud our council president for bringing this to the forefront so that we can get this out to our residents as 7 council people as well, because we're getting a lot of calls. And that's cool. I mean, that's our job as well. But it helps to have the information that we have from you and our departments, so thank you again. I have yet to see anyone that wants to grow up and be a garbage person. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I mean, on a truck carrying those garbage cans in the heat, in the snow, everything else. So it's not a very, forgive me, desirable job in those elements at times. It's nice pay if that's what you enjoy doing. And I know you've had some very dedicated employees over the years, because you guys were with Waste Management at one time, now you're with this group. And so I know that through the garbage process of what you've done and hired through the years has been extremely well done in many, many cases. It's just you come into this glitch, I think, as you've explained. And I think all of us have explained that to all of our residents that have called us and even offered to help them get their garbage out to the curb in some cases, if you will. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank this council for all the patience that all of us have given, and our team here in the city. But it's been a real challenge for you as well as us. So this is what we got to do, is work together, and I think this brings it to light for most of us. So we've got those hard answers when they call us. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. You certainly have my commitment to get this right, and I won't stop
Right.
till it is.
Correct. Thanks.
Thank you, council member. Thank you, Mr. Caremagno. Mr. Councilmember Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. Briefly, I just want to make a comment. Mr. Carmagno, thanks for being so accessible. We've had multiple committee meetings on recycling and other things that the council's planning on the future, and I think we're very well served here in Livonia, and I hope the residents know that. There's been multiple occasions where I've personally reached out to you, because residents have reached out to me, and within hours, residents said that somebody was at their house taking care of their situation. So I understand it's a very frustrating experience. My trash has been late before, but I just want residents to know that there are people within GFL that are working extremely hard. I've reached out to you at 9 o'clock at night, and you've responded immediately, and that next morning, I got a message from the resident saying, thank you for taking care of that, and I said that was GFL. So thank you for being a hard worker, and I know you're working long nights, and you guys are working long days, weeks to serve our city. You made a point about hiring, and you may be getting tons of candidates, and I speak to a lot of business owners, and they're getting tons of candidates that are applying for positions, but they never show up for interviews, and if they do show up for interviews, they never show up for the first day. And you know, that's a long story, but the difficulties that businesses, whether they're large corporations or small businesses, are dealing with just labor shortages, it is tough, and I commend you guys, and I'm looking forward to your son working hard as a trash man back there, and I appreciate what he does and everything you guys are doing for our city. So thank you, Mr. Carmagno.
Well, thank you. I did. I brought him here tonight. He was out on the road today watching over the Livonia cruise today, so he's doing his part as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you. Well, Sam, obviously this is not an ideal situation, but what gives me a lot of solace in this situation is you are yourself a Livonia person. You're a resident of Livonia, you're not some corporate figure. I know this is personal to you, and I know you're trying to find solutions here. You've said all the right things tonight, and hopefully it works out. I have faith that it will. I do realize that you get a lot of complaints. I think it's important, though, just to point out that there are many times when, almost weekly, when I see your employees out on the road, they're doing their jobs with a smile, with a wave. They're interacting with children who are playing on the sidewalk. Those are not things they have to do, and those are appreciated as well. So those should not go without being mentioned here, and please pass that along to them, that we appreciate, I mean, for lack of a better way of saying it, the attitude at which they are doing their job. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll pass that along tomorrow morning, first thing.
I have one final thing, one thing for you, Sam, and then one thing actually for LaShawn, I guess, to Don through LaShawn. And that is to follow up on what Jim said, and that is to express our gratitude to the men and women, I know it's mostly men, but there are some women who are out there every day in every kind of weather, doing that job. And that is, you know, that is, I think when we think about difficult jobs, that and working in a Tyson chicken factory, right? And I'm not being funny, right? Those are some of the hardest jobs. And, you know, when I was a kid, the teachers would say it was not a politically correct time, right? That, you know, you want to end up, you know, being a garbage man. And when my kids were young, at different times, because there's a big age difference, we looked out at the garbage trucks. And I said to them, you know, people used to say, do you want to end up as a garbage person? And I said, I never ever want to hear any discussion like that in our house. And we talked about the importance of the work. And I don't mean to sound like, you know, I was always having these moments with my kids, because I wasn't. But to the point Councilperson Toy made, right? One of the things that is worst in cities that are not well-run, the garbage doesn't get picked up, right? And when garbage doesn't get picked up, as we all know, the consequences are horrible, right? The smells, the rodents, I mean, it's just everything. And your team, and I know they've gotten behind, and thank you for being here tonight and explaining, and thank you for being accessible to everyone. But please thank them, because it's not lost on any of us or our residents that if it weren't for them, we would be living in developing world countries, developing world conditions. So thank you very much. I mean, they're heroes, and you think about what went on during COVID, right? And they were on the front lines too. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I have one thing. I'm not going to go. I know we're not to ask And now I have a thing for Mr. Roroff. I know we're not, so I'm gonna go through LaShawn because I know we're not to make direct requests to department heads. LaShawn, could you please, through the mayor's office, it would be really helpful if maybe at the end of every week until we kind of get caught up, if council could get an update of how we looked that week. And whatever metrics are easiest for Mr. Roroff and the department to pull together. You know, it doesn't have to be percentage of houses or anything else, but just maybe every Friday, midday or morning or whenever it works. If council could just get a quick email to let us know how things looked that week. And this is just until we're, you know, caught up to 90%, I would say. And that's helpful, and we don't like to make extra work for anyone, but then we know when we get questions over the weekend, where we are. And if there are any particular areas of the city that have had a particular problem, if you could let us know. It's helpful to residents that when we say we're aware of this, we know, you know, your area was a problem and it's gonna get picked up, and that would be very helpful. All right, thank you. And again, thank you, Don, for all the work your department does, and getting on top of this and being committed to working with GFL to get this resolved.
You're welcome.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, if we don't have any reports from any other city officials, we move on to our consent agenda. This evening, items 1 through 9 are listed on the consent agenda. It doesn't mean that, and they'll be voted on as one item. It doesn't mean that they are any less important than any other items on the agenda, but rather than when we met in our study meeting of July 26th, they were determined not to be controversial in nature, and so they are voted on together. Council.
Move approval.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Jolly. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on approval of the consent agenda?
Councilmember Jolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Toy.
Aye.
Vice President Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick.
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the consent agenda is approved unanimously by all 7 members of council. Thank you. Now we move on to unfinished business, beginning with item number 10. And this is the proposed repeal and replacement of zoning ordinance number 543 as amended. This comes to us from the Department of Law, and this is petition 2020-12-06-03 to consider the adoption of compiled and revised Livonia Vision 21 zoning ordinance and Livonia Vision 21 zoning map. The proposed Livonia Vision 21 zoning ordinance provides new definitions, creates several new zoning districts, and deletes several existing districts, updates the list of permitted and waiver land uses for each zoning district, provides new requirements and regulations for lot sizes, building setbacks and lot coverages, off-street parking, signs, alternative energy systems, and other regulations for structures and uses, including a new form-based development option for the city's commercial districts. Council.
Madam Chair.
Madam President, I'll offer in approving,
No,
well, first, yeah, well, I have so we've resolved the issues?
we had asked,
May I have
please.
Well, it's Mr. Bernier, we had some questions brought to our attention by a resident in regards to the effect that this new zoning change would have on RUF lots here in Livonia. I take it from the brief interaction just a moment ago that has now been resolved. Can you give us a little bit of detail in regards to how that is resolved from?
Yes, it's been resolved actually that the new zoning ordinance actually gives express permission to do what the gentleman wanted to do, and allows for the building of the building that he wants. So the new zoning ordinance actually is clearer in that it allows it than the old ordinance was. So it does take it all into effect. I think it was Vice President Barr requested a breakdown that was provided, and it lays out the differences and distinctions.
Okay, so,
No, please.
with that being said, I'll offer a first read.
May I comment, please? Well,
It's your meeting, Madam
I
President.
guess you're right. It's not my meeting, but I chair it. Council Vice President Barr had requested on Friday the comparison of the old and new, And we did not think that, it's not presented as new data because we didn't receive it until today. And given that Mr. Taramina was not available, we didn't think we'd be able to have it. But thanks to Mr. Lippens, who's here this evening from our partner at McKenna, we were able to receive that information. But it's not listed as new data because we received it this afternoon. But thank you, Mr. Lippens.
I thank you for that. Where was that communicated? Just because was it email?
Email.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, we received an email earlier today. All right.
Thank you.
Yes,
Well,
Council.
Madam Chair, in all due respect, that's fine on the new data, but unless you're right at your computer every minute of the day, sometimes you don't see this stuff. Council rule says it's supposed to be in 24 hours before the meeting, as we all know, and so it's difficult to read that. I appreciate Mr. Lipkins for being here. I'm for this proposal, that doesn't interfere. It's just, we gotta have that new data on time, to be fair to all of us. And that's not your fault. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that out loud, so maybe the message will finally get out that between our office having to handle things and everyone else in this city, it would be helpful to have that information 24 hours ahead, that's all.
Mr. Barr would like to address this. This is, I cited this, it is not technically new data, okay?
Oh, okay.
It was not, new data, well, new data is submitted by the petitioner or by others from third parties who are interested party in an issue for our consideration, okay?
Okay.
This was something that Mr. Barr asked for, I think, Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, actually, okay? This wasn't requested
okay.
information from a petitioner to change it. This was a request that Mr. Barr made Saturday morning. Okay. And Mr. Taramina was not available to provide it. So it wasn't new data, it was answering a council question, and Mr. Lippin stepped in Mr. Taramina's absence to provide the
Okay.
information, so it was not new data.
Appreciate it,
Vice
thank
President
you.
Barr.
Yeah, you covered much of what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I typically do the bulk of my study for these meetings on early Saturday mornings. It was in the process of that I had asked for because we had a lot of pieces of, a lot of documents that I'd spent a lot of time going through, communicating with the resident, communicating with our planning department. It was Saturday morning that I had asked for just that
Okay.
summary to help clarify it for me. They turned it around quite quickly, thank you. And that's why I originally asked for the 4. I was just gonna publicly thank everybody involved with bringing that information together. And I also wanna thank the resident, he knows who he is. He helps, I'll just speak for myself, he helped me do my job better. I mean, this is a great example of why we put these things through public hearings and in all the different meetings that we do, because we want to get resident feedback. And we had a very alert resident that found a place in this proposed ordinance that we were missing something. And he pointed it out, he was right, we fixed it. So I want to thank him for that as well.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Councilmember Toy, that was my fault for probably referencing new data and incorrectly and
That's all right.
miscategorizing as new data. But your points are well made and well taken, that we do have specific rules about new data, and it needs to be received by the council office prior to 24 hours before the meeting. So thank you for your
Thank you.
comments on that. All right, so we've had first reading offered by Councilmember Jelly, and just one additional thing, and the reason I did call out Mr. Lippens and McKenna is, people hear council approving contracts and talking about what our partners do and what we look for when we issue large RFPs, and this was a large RFP, and to help residents understand that when we award business to firms, it's based on contract price and it's based on service, but it's also based on expectation that they will work with us in partnership. And when one of our key people is not available and our Mr. Lippens from McKenna steps in, it's appreciated, and that's part of what brings value to residents when we look at contracts and award business. So thank you. All right, number 11, also under unfinished business, is a request for a temporary hourly rate increase and hiring bonus. This came to us from the Department of Civil Service for 2021 and 2022 temporary seasonal positions. Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Council
We need
President.
a motion.
Thank you, that would be helpful.
I'll do that.
Support.
All right, Mr. Davis, we'll try it again. Thank you.
I am happy to answer any questions council might have on this item.
Is this new data?
No.
Madam President.
Councilmember Jolly.
So, Mr. Davis, we heard from you at our last study meeting, I believe, in regards to the need to offer enhanced pay and some benefits to your employees at the recreation center to keep operations up and keep employees working there. You, like many of the businesses that we've heard about earlier today, have experienced some problem filling positions, keeping employees. So we've kind of talked about this greatly, and we understand the need. So I'll commend you and the Department of Civil Service for bringing this to us, and hopefully it helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Jolly.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Toy.
If I may to Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, how do we compare with other cities now with this? I heard we were a little behind at times on others that are paying. I guess Canton just had a raise in some of theirs, and
Yeah, Councilwoman Toy, that's a great question. We saw Canton obviously raise pay rates, $250 across the board for all positions. We've seen other communities do hiring bonuses. I think it's not that we're just competing against other municipalities for employees.
Yeah.
You know, we're competing against private sector employers as well, unfortunately. And I say that, I mean, we're all fighting for a tight labor pool right now, and I think we need to be competitive, not just against other municipalities, but in the broader scale.
sure. So can you see, as we go down this road, probably maybe some more increases here or there in other areas that you supervise?
It's going to
Yeah.
depend on what the private sector does,
Okay.
and if this situation lessens as time goes on, or continues to be this tight of a labor market. You know, certainly this is not going to be a cure-all for us. This just gets us playing the same game as other employers are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly. Anyone else? All right, would anyone from the audience like to comment on this item? And I should have asked that in the last item. Anyway. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the, on approval of the new hourly rate increase, or the temporary hourly rate increase and hiring bonus? Thank you.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr, Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And it is, the increase and hiring bonus are approved. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to new business, beginning with item number 12, and this is a request to waive the city's noise ordinance. This comes to us from Mr. Fred Sackla, Festival Chairperson. The Basilica of St. Mary Antiochian Orthodox Church, in connection with their 13th annual Michigan Fun Fest, to be held Friday, August 13th, 2021, through Sunday, August 15th, 18100 Merriman Road. Good evening, Mr. Sackla.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I miss all your faces.
Madam President, I'll offer an approving.
Support.
I'm off my game. Okay, we have support. Now, you may continue, and that was completely my fault again.
Yeah, I just, it's nice to see you all. Actually, it's worded a little wrong in the agenda. This is just gonna be a church gathering. This won't be at Bryant Park as typical. It's not gonna be on our charts of every one of our festivals. We're just having music, a couple bounce houses, and food. We're putting it up in the rear end of our parking lot. And it, right now, is scheduled for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's possible it's just Saturday, Sunday, but we're planning for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Father George wanted to do something to lift the spirits of the community and get them back to help support the church. I am taking a little bit of a role on this one, but I'm letting my other members of my committee run with this a little bit because of having 2 new children since the last time I've been in front of you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We will be back for a community event, big and strong. Hopefully, God willing, everybody's healthy and happy next year. But we do ask for this approval for our church members to have a gathering in our parking lot.
Councilmember Jolly and Councilmember Donovan.
So, Mr. Sackla, I've had the opportunity to know you for probably 15 years now, mostly at the courthouse, and I get to see you every year or so come here.
Sorry.
You know, there's a really great community at your church, and And, you know, if you attend Mass there, I've had the opportunity to attend Mass there before, and there's a really great spirit. It's just a great community, how everybody gets along, how they stay after Mass, how they all talk to each other. It really feels like a giant family. And I think there are some very giant families there, but I'm glad to see that the church is doing this. I hope it's a success. And we look forward to the larger event coming back next year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and we definitely consider the city of Livonia, our residents, the neighbors around us, everyone, our family too. So it's actually a little sad to us that it's not at the event that it should be, and we want to go back to it, but, you know, first steps for everybody, right? Thank you.
Councilmember Donovic?
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. With that being said, since this isn't the event that you've held in the prior years, is this event still open up to the community, or will it only be for the members of the church?
We certainly would never turn away anyone from the community. We would love to have people. We're just not planning for that. We're not charging for parking. We're really just keeping it to the members, just because we don't want to. We want to encourage small steps. So that's all.
I understand, but thank you to Councilmember Jolly's point. You saw recently the Livonia Chamber of Commerce held an outdoor event with music and food, and it was just, it was a great time, and you could really see people just wanting to get out and enjoy the camaraderie of their neighbors and friends and coworkers, et cetera. So commend you guys for doing this. It's a great event. Look forward to hopefully next year being the normal event that you.
It will, and it was a lot of it. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. And it will be. It just a lot of it's in the planning. You know, it's hard to, you know, if we knew we were going to have it, we would have started a lot earlier, and that's why it just had to be a little smaller. It had to be smaller this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, council, I guess I'd just like to add one thing, and that is to Councilmember Donovic's point. You may see some of us over there, if that's okay.
Love to see.
We've missed celebrating a lot in the city, and that includes celebrating with our many friends at the Basilica. And please give our best to Father George.
Yes, and please come. We just don't want to disappoint people. We want them to come and be like, where are these rides at? So we just, we're happy to have everyone.
We won't complain about not having rides, and you can charge us, for parking. How's that? All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, anyone from the audience? All right, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye, and the motion carries, and the noise ordinance is waived. Yeah, Fred?
I was told to ask procedurally for potentially a veto.
Oh, a non-veto
non-veto.
letter.
Is that possible? If it is, thank you.
I'll formally request that.
Mr. Jolly has formally requested that, so, all right, thank you. All right, item number 13 is a request to schedule a Finance and Budget Committee meeting and establish a public hearing. This comes to us from the Department of Finance for the annual budget for the fiscal year ending November 30th, 2022. Council.
So moved.
Yeah.
Support.
Support from White and then Toy. Any discussion? The only thing I'd like to add to this, I meant to add at the beginning of the meeting, is that Wednesday night is our budget hearing, correct, Mr. Barr? And that's the Finance and Budget Committee, chaired by Vice President Barr, and that is our deep dive into the budget for the upcoming year at 7 p.m. Sarah, is that in the 5th floor gallery?
Second floor.
That's in the 2nd floor chambers. Okay, thank you.
Just, Madam President, if I may,
Yes,
just a quick
please.
clarification. It's not really the deep dive into the
It's-
budget. Yeah, this is our, I know you know this, but this is our preliminary meeting, really council's opportunity to weigh in on things to consider in the creation of the budget, which we'll be reviewing, which we're supposed to get by September 15th, and then ultimately there will be a public hearing on November 30th.
Yes, and we will take a subsequent deep dive, but
It's
yeah.
usually a deep discussion.
Yes, so anyway, thank you for the clarification. I was confusing things in my head as I've done tonight. All right, if there are no comments from the audience, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the scheduling of Finance and Budget Committee meeting and establish the public hearing?
Councilmember Jolly?
Aye.
Councilmember Toy?
Aye.
Vice President Barr?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough?
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic?
Aye.
President McIntyre?
Aye, and the motion carries, so we will schedule the committee meeting and the public hearing. This time, we go back to the audience. If there's anyone in the audience who did not have the opportunity to communicate with council during the first round of audience communication, now is an opportunity to do so. Seeing
To
none.
adjourn.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, which has been preemptively offered by Councilmember Toy. Support from Councilmember Barr. I think we can safely show 7. On that, we are adjourned. It's 8:10. We will reconvene at 8:20 for the study meeting. Thank you very much.